In Syria, a drone attack kills dozens at a cadet graduation.
Authorities blame the attack on terrorist organizations. More details on this later in the news. Good evening, I am Gianna Llanes.
I am Nina Richie Alago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Now for the headlines. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is flying to Riyadh this October. Philippines and Russia delve into a potential trade cooperation. France's Emmanuel Macron and Zelensky hold talks on the sidelines of the European political summit. Narges Mohammadi wins the Nobel Peace Prize fighting for the rights of Iranian women. And the Busan International Film Festival pushes for generational change despite backlash. The Philippine Statistics Authority, or PSA, has reported that the unemployment rate has decreased significantly in August of this year compared to the same month last year. As of August 2023, the number of unemployed Filipinos stands at 2.21 million, or 4.4%, a decline from 2.68 million, or 5.3%, in 2022. Estimates suggest that the number of employed Filipinos has risen to 48.07 million, surpassing last year's 47.87 million, resulting in 95.6% for the employment rate. Major industries experiencing the significant surge in employment encompass fishing and aquaculture, construction, as well as agriculture and forestry.
The House of Representatives and the Department of Social Welfare and Development have organized a large-scale initiative, the Malaya Rice Project, aimed at distributing rice and financial assistance to at least 2.5 million Filipinos. This concerted effort aligns seamlessly with President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s commitment to making quality rice affordable and accessible, especially for those in dire need within the country. Each beneficiary is set to receive a grant of 1,000 pesos alongside an allocation of 15 kilograms of rice. Speaker Ferdinand Martin Romualdez emphasizes that this rice distribution starts with Metro Manila but will eventually reach Metro Cebu, Davao, and other significant urban areas before progressively reaching every corner of the nation.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has declared October as Cybersecurity Awareness Month. The president has moved the country's observance to the annual celebration from September to October to be in sync with the international event. This is under the directives of Proclamation Number 353, amending Proclamation Number 2054 series of 2010. Cybersecurity Awareness Month seeks to boost and develop cyber defense capability as well as create public realization via intensified campaigns. Last September 22, PhilHealth said it detected a cyber attack via ransomware on its website. Meanwhile, the Department of Communications and Information Technology, or DICT, warned the public of attacks to individuals whose data was compromised by the ransomware.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. warmly welcomes envoys from Namibia and Malawi as they present their credentials at the Malacanang Palace. Vin Pascua tells us more.
The Department of Foreign Affairs said that President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is set for at least 4 more foreign trips this year. According to Foreign Affairs Chief Enrique Manalo, the president is set to fly to Saudi Arabia this month to attend the ASEAN Gulf Cooperation Council Summit. Manalo added that in mid-November, the chief executive will attend the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting in the United States. This is followed by the Climate Change Conference in the United Arab Emirates and the ASEAN-Japan Commemorative Summit in Tokyo.
The Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines, or CAAP, has placed 42 commercial airports in the county on heightened alert. This is after a series of security incidents occurred in the past few days. The agency urged passengers to allot more time for inspection, citing that a 3-hour early arrival must be observed before their scheduled flight to avoid inconvenience. CAAP has issued a memorandum to airport managers stressing a strict access control guidelines will be implemented, as well as thorough inspections of passengers and cargo. Last month, a Molotov cocktail exploded at the open parking area of Ninoy Aquino International Airport, Terminal 3. On October 2, flights and operations at the Bicol International Airport were disrupted over a bomb scare. The Philippines and Russia convenes in a 2-day trade and economic meeting this week as Moscow turns to Southeast Asia for business opportunities. Trade officials from both countries delve into potential collaborations in mining, pharmaceuticals, and agriculture, among others. Russian Deputy Minister of Industry and Trade Alexei Gruzdev expresses Russia's keen interest in broadening its imports from the Philippines, from canned tuna to tropical fruits. He also emphasizes that Russia can contribute by supplying goods like wheat and metal products to the Philippine market. Coming up, Vladimir Putin slams the Western approach towards world relations. President Joe Biden approves the building of the Mexican border wall with pre-allotted funds. And President Emmanuel Macron and Volodymyr Zelensky reunite on the sidelines of the European Political Summit. Stay tuned, Mata ng Agila International will return for more global news.
Welcome back to Mata ng Agila International. Companies and volunteers from Moscow joined together to rebuild new homes for war victims in Mariupol, Donetsk Republic. RT correspondent Steve Sweeney has the details.
50,000 builders are working in the regions recently incorporated into the Russian Federation, according to government officials. 33 state companies are involved in the rebuilding process, while volunteers from cities including Moscow and St. Petersburg are helping in Mariupol, where reconstruction is gathering pace.
Just under half of the buildings in Mariupol were said to have been destroyed during intense fighting that took place over an 80-day period in March 2022. Many of the buildings surrounding this area still bear the bullet marks and the artillery damage from that time. Reconstruction is underway. Construction companies and volunteers from Moscow and St. Petersburg have joined the efforts to rebuild the city. These new apartment blocks have also been built during that time. We've been invited to take a look inside.
This family, which includes 8 children, moved in months ago and say they are comfortable and happy here.
Here's our bedroom. Here are the children. If you tickle them, they'll laugh. Mom sleeps here on the floor. Miriam sleeps here. Vasya and Sofa sleep here. Emily sleeps there. Dad sleeps here. Watch TV here. That's it.
They told us of the horrors during the battle for control of Mariupol, when their home was destroyed.
We lived in one little room. It was very cold in winter, no heating, no electricity. My husband took a huge pot, burned wood there, and then brought the hot coal inside to get some warmth. Our twins were only 2 years old back then. When the shells fell, we went to the basement, but we were asked to leave. Shells, grenades were flying and we carried our children. I thought, God, let them kill me. I'm so tired. God, I'm so tired. I can't take it anymore.
We met another family waiting to be rehoused after their home was badly damaged in an Azov strike, leaving a wife without a husband and a daughter without a father.
It was the Azov battalion for sure. My pain is still choking me. I lost my husband. 2 Azov snipers were detained once. There were 2 12-floor residential buildings, and the snipers were sitting there and shooting at civilians. Some said they saw people who were running out of a burning house and got shot. They wouldn't let them flee, so people just burned there.
Locals have received keys to apartments like this one, but there is still a lot of work to be done. According to the mayor of Mariupol, rebuilding the city could take as long as 3 years. But there are signs of life, signs of hope where there was once destruction and chaos. This is Steve Sweeney in Mariupol for RT.
At the Valdai Discussion Club in Sochi, Russia, President Vladimir Putin slams the Western Bloc approach. He tells the audience that this political format limits states of their independence, rights and freedom.
They're imposing artificial geopolitical constructs on the world by creating closed bloc formats. We can see this in Europe, with decades of assertive NATO expansion. We see this in the Asia-Pacific region and in the south of Asia, where they're trying to break down the open and inclusive cooperation architecture. This bloc approach, let me be frank with you, means a limitation of the rights and freedoms of the states for their own development, an attempt to put them inside a cage of obligations. This is obvious. They're essentially depriving them of a part of their own sovereignty, which is followed by the imposing of decisions in other areas apart from security, first of all in the area of economy. We can see this in the relations between the United States and Europe, for example. There is no need to explain that.
Russian mercenary group Wagner signed a contract in November 2022 with a Chinese firm to acquire 2 satellites and use their images. This according to a document seen by a source. Emi Kapilita-Roja reports.
The contract was to aid Wagner's intelligence work as the organization sought to push Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The contract was signed in November of 2022. This was over half a year into Moscow's invasion of Ukraine, in which the Wagner Group, under its founder Yevgeny Prigozhin, was playing a key role on the battlefield. A European security source says the satellite images were also used to assist Wagner's operations in Africa and its failed mutiny in June. This has now led to the de facto breakup of the group, followed by the death of its founder, Yevgeny Prigozhin. According to a contract seen by AFP, Beijing Yansai Technology Company Limited sold 2 high-resolution observation satellites belonging to the Chinese space giant Changguang Satellite Technology to Nika Fruit. Nika Fruit was the company then part of Prigozhin's commercial empire. Emi Kapilita-Roja for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
The United States has reportedly intercepted and brought down a Turkish drone operating in Syria, marking the first instance of Washington engaging an aircraft from its NATO ally, Turkey. The incident occurred when a Turkish drone approached U.S. troops in northeastern Syria. An F-16 warplane engaged and shot down the drone, perceiving it as a threat. Turkey has been conducting strikes against Kurdish militant targets in Syria in response to the insurgents' bomb attack in Ankara. The long-standing U.S. support for Kurdish forces in northern Syria has consistently strained relations with Turkey.
United States President Joe Biden will build more border walls in southern Texas to stop rising levels of immigration. The Department of Homeland Security says about 32 kilometers of wall will be built in Starr County along its border with Mexico, but Biden does not believe such barriers worked. The border wall was a signature policy of former U.S. President Donald Trump. In 2020, Biden even promised he would not build another foot of wall if elected. But now Biden says he cannot stop the construction of the wall since he was bound by laws introduced under the Trump administration. Despite his appeal to reassign the funds, Biden admits the funding for the border wall had already been earmarked.
I'll answer one question on the border wall. The border wall, the money was appropriated for the border wall. I tried to get them to reappropriate, to redirect that money. They didn't, they wouldn't. And in the meantime, there's nothing under the law other than they have to use the money for what it was appropriated. I can't stop that.
Sources say Biden's own Department of Homeland Security believes the new border wall will tackle an acute and immediate need as migrant crossings surge. Illegal immigration has become a vulnerable issue for the Biden administration, with many Republicans accusing Biden of lax border policies.
Mexico has firmly rejected U.S. proposals to construct additional sections of the border wall as top officials from both nations gathered in the Mexican capital to address immigration and security concerns.
Voy a hablar del tema de esta propuesta que se dio a conocer el día de ayer para permitir la construcción de un muro en la frontera, que es contrario a lo que venía sosteniendo el presidente Biden.
Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador criticizes this latest wall plan by U.S. President Joe Biden's administration, considering it a regressive step in their bilateral relations. One of Biden's initial actions upon assuming office was to proclaim that no further American taxpayer funds would be allocated for border wall construction. Despite this, the U.S. has now proposed building more walls in an effort to curb the increasing number of individuals crossing into the country from Mexico. Biden's administration is also resuming deportations of Venezuelan migrants, despite the recent extension of temporary legal status granted by the U.S. to over 470,000 Venezuelans residing in the country.
Former United States President Donald Trump says he is willing to step up as the Speaker of the House of Representatives on an interim basis. That is until the Republican lawmakers can agree on the party's long-term legislative leader. Trump has declined to name who he talked to, but he said he would take the speakership role for a 30, 60, or 90-day period, but not for long since he is running for the presidential election. Media outlets reported that Trump will make a stop in Washington on Tuesday to meet with Republican legislators. The United States has never had a House Speaker who was not also an elected representative in the lower chamber of Congress. However, its constitution does not prohibit a non-member from holding the position. The U.S. Speaker has a big role in the U.S. political system, including being the next in line of succession to the presidency should the Vice President be unable to replace an ousted or incapacitated commander-in-chief.
The United States said that it will resume its migrant deportation flights to Venezuela after a deal with Caracas. Washington has stopped sending migrants back to the South American nations due to instability and sanctions against the government of President Nicolas Maduro. The White House said the first flight of deportation will begin in the next few days. This will affect Venezuelan migrants who have illegally arrived in the U.S. since July 31st. Venezuela confirmed the deal but blamed sanctions imposed by U.S. for the flow of migrants. Caracas refuted that the surge in Venezuelan migration in recent years is due to the U.S.'s unilateral measures and blockade of Venezuela's economy. The U.S., however, remained firm with its decision, citing that this was part of its administration's effort to enforce safe and humane immigration laws.
In Venezuela, the prosecutor's office issues an arrest warrant against opposition leader Juan Guaido. It has requested a red alert from Interpol. This based on investigations by a court in the U.S. disclosed by the press. Jay Suarez has more.
In a televised speech by Venezuela's public ministry, prosecutor Tarek William Saab says an arrest warrant against Juan Guaido has been issued. He says it comes with a request for a red alert from Interpol so that Guaido pays for the crimes that the U.S. federal court today knows and disseminates. The crimes charged against Guaido include treason, usurpation of functions, profit or extraction of money, securities or public goods, money laundering, and association to commit a crime. Guaido escaped the U.S. in April this year. Jay Suarez from Mantanang Agila International. Trusted Connected, on point.
In Peru, authorities captured the alleged leader and 31 other members of the faction of the Tren De Aragua. Officials say Tren De Aragua is a criminal organization of Venezuelan origin that sows terror in several South American countries with murders and extortion. Jessica Bautista tells us more.
The offensive against what is considered the most dangerous gang operating in Peru is carried out in several regions of the country. 80 women sexually exploited in Lima by the gang have been rescued. Several Venezuelans are among them. The Interior Ministry says the arrests are a resounding blow to organized crime. Authorities say police dismantled a faction of the Aragua train known as the Alien Dynasty. Among those detained is Venezuelan Yumar Delgado, alias Nino. Delgado is the alleged leader of the said faction and was captured in Lima along with his partner. Police say Delgado tried to escape by jumping from a house next to the scene of the operation. He was injured. Intelligence reports reveal that the organization was formed in 2014 in the Venezuelan state of Aragua. It spread to 8 South American countries, including Colombia, Peru, and Chile. Among their activities are human trafficking, murders, kidnappings, robberies, drugs, and extortion. Jessica Bautista for Mantanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Tino Kruppala, the leader of Germany's largest opposition party, was reportedly assaulted during a campaign rally. Authorities have initiated a formal case to thoroughly investigate this incident following the discovery and injection mark on Kruppala. RT Charlotte Dubensky tells us more.
What we do understand is that he is the co-leader of the AfD. His name is Tino Kruppala. He was at a rally in Bavaria, which is the southern state in Germany. He was there because there is a big election coming up in Bavaria on Sunday. So he was there at a campaign rally. We understand he was caught up in a melee. He was taking selfies with the thousands of people who were there at the crowd, and then he collapsed. Now, the unconfirmed reports we have is that he was attacked with a needle that was full of liquid, and that liquid caused him to go into anaphylactic shock. We have not had that confirmed from the police. That is unconfirmed reports. The police say that they were called about an incident at 4:30 on Wednesday in the southern state of Bavaria. They say that the leader of the AfD was hospitalized, that he was showing no injuries. Well, that would be consistent if there was an attack with a needle. It would be very hard to see that injury, and that he was taken to hospital where he is in a stable condition. Now, this has been taken very seriously by the AfD. The other co-leader, which is Alice Weidel, she is in hiding at the moment because she also says that she has received threats. And this is not the first time we have seen attacks on politicians from the AfD. There's been a long list, including back in 2019 in the city of Bremen, where one politician was almost beaten to death. And more recently, in just August of this year, another AfD politician had dog feces smeared on her. So really a long list of attacks, the party taking this very seriously. This is a party that was set up in 2013, so it's only about 10 years old. They recently had their first politician elected into a state parliament. They have been building their success year on year. They consider themselves to be alternative in terms of their politics. They have spoken out against the number of migrants coming into Germany. But Tino Kruppala himself has been co-leader now for 4 years. He has really overseen this rise in popularity of the party, and he has been a particularly controversial figure when it comes to the mainstream media because he's spoken out against Ukraine. He has actually likened the country to being like Nazi Germany. And he said that the only winner in the war in Ukraine is actually going to be the US. And that's because he says as a result of that war, Europe has tried to stop buying Russian energy. It's instead importing shale gas from the US, gas that he describes as being dirty energy, and has been really outspoken.
With these decisions, they're actively prolonging a conflict and blocking peace negotiations. They're running straight into an open fire with their eyes wide open, and I have to say it, straight into the World War III.
So a hugely controversial figure, but successful for the party. I mean, his party is now polling second in Germany. That is above Chancellor Olaf Scholz's CDU party. So we're waiting for more information, but the confirmation we have at the moment is that the co-leader of the AfD is in hospital. He's stable, receiving treatment after that reported attack at a rally in Bavaria on Wednesday.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky engages in bilateral discussions with French President Emmanuel Macron during the sidelines of the European Political Community Summit in Spain. President Macron reiterates France's unwavering support for Ukraine, aligning with the European Union. However, the EU has cautioned that it might not be able to bridge any funding gaps left by the United States. Despite these concerns, France and several other European nations have pledged increased support to Zelensky's administration, assuring the provision of additional artillery and air defense systems.
French President Emmanuel Macron underscores the need to be demanding in the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Macron claims Azerbaijan does not respect international law and the commitments it has made. Rex Dula has the details.
Speaking in Grenada at the European Political Community Summit, French President Emmanuel Macron says it is not France that has a problem with Azerbaijan. He says it is Azerbaijan that has a problem today with the commitments it has made. These include keeping its own word and respecting international law. Macron says France will continue to stand by international law and respect for it, and therefore by the Armenian people. Armenia, he says, is currently under pressure and an occupation in several border areas by Azerbaijan. The French president also says European countries are concentrating efforts on prevention when it comes to immigration. He says France needs to protect its borders better, to prevent movements towards the country more effectively, and to avoid tragedies in the Mediterranean Sea. Rex Dulai for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Up next, a mysterious disease is paralyzing Kenya's children. The UK cracks down on a potentially harmful dog breed. And the Nobel Peace Prize stands with women fighting against oppression. Mata ng Agila International will be back after a short break. Don't go away.
Dito, ang inyong sumbong siguradong may respondeng katapat. Hindi nagdadalawang isip na tumulong sino man ang nangangailangan. Mga ahensya ng gobyerno na prioridad ang pagbibigay ng murang pabahay sa ating mga kababayan na dapat tulungan. Sanib puwersa na ngayon kasama ang Responde. At pagdiriwang ng National Shelter Month ngayong Oktubre, aapaw ang Responde sa pangunguna ng Department of Human Settlement and Urban Development o DSWD.
Magpapatupad na po kami ng isang napakalaking programa po ng Departamento ng Kagawaran, ang 4PH, Pambansang Pabahay. 6.5 million na housing need ng Pilipinas.
Sabado, alas 6 hanggang alas 7 ng gabi, ito ang Responde, Mata ng Mamamayan.
Syria, a drone-laden attack killed at least 89 at a military college in Homs. This is after a graduation ceremony attended by cadets' families Thursday. Syrian Health Ministry said the strike had injured 277, including women and children. The Syrian army blamed the attack on terrorist organizations supported by infamous international parties. The command considered the attack as cowardly and vowed to respond with full force against the perpetrator.
Authorities in the Dominican Republic are conducting an investigation following the discovery of the bodies of 6 newborns discarded at the entrance of a cemetery in the capital, Santo Domingo. The bodies, 4 girls and 2 boys, still had hospital tags around their feet and wrists. There were no signs of violence and they were born on different dates. Some of them were stillborn while others had passed away within hours after their birth. Law enforcement and officials are actively engaged in investigating this deeply concerning and tragic incident.
In Brazil, authorities started investigating the fatal shooting of 3 doctors in a bar next to the Barra de Tijuca beach in Rio de Janeiro. One of the victims was the brother of a socialist congresswoman. Kristen Fergata tells us more.
A video of the incident shows the doctors were sitting at a table in a restaurant on the promenade of Barra Thursday morning. It was then when they were shot at by several men dressed in black who got out of a vehicle. Another doctor was injured. The shooting was over in less than a minute. The doctors were part of a group of professionals who had traveled to Rio to participate in an orthopedic congress. The civil police of Rio de Janeiro says it is hearing witnesses and analyzing images from security cameras to try to establish the motives for the crime. Brazil's Ministry of Justice says a possible political motivation for the crime will be investigated. One of the victims was identified as 35-year-old Diego Ralph Bonfim. Bonfim was a brother of the federal representative for Sao Paulo, Samia Bonfim, of the Socialism and Freedom Party. He was also a brother-in-law of Representative Gilbert Braga of the same political group for Rio de Janeiro. Kristen Fergata for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
In Kenya, a mysterious illness has sent 95 students to hospitals for medical attention. Reports said most of the victims are girls who are suffering from leg paralysis and experiencing convulsions. Kenya's Ministry of Health said that blood samples of the patients were sent to the laboratories to determine the nature and origin of the disease. Local officials urged parents and guardians of the affected students to closely monitor their children's health. Meanwhile, experts believed it may be a case of mass hysteria. The National Cancer Institute, or NCI, releases the second part of its latest annual report to the nation on the status of cancer. The report reveals that new diagnoses of major cancer types in the U.S. fell sharply in early 2020. Rosel Feria reports.
Opportunities for early cancer detection have been missed during the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. In a recent report by NCI, not only did the number of cancer diagnoses abruptly decline, but also that of pathology reports. This decline was most likely due to interruptions in medical care. The American Cancer Society says what is deeply concerning is the implications of delayed diagnosis associated with more aggressive disease and worse outcomes. NCI says the report highlights the urgency in helping all Americans get back on track with cancer care to avoid unnecessary deaths and complications from the disease. The study is the largest to date, using population-based data from central cancer registries to assess the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on new diagnosis of cancer here in the U.S. In Washington, D.C., Rosel Feria for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
UNICEF warns that climate disasters have displaced at least 43.1 million children between the years 2016 and 2021. And this, the agency says, is only the tip of the iceberg. Bernadette Regini reports.
In a report by UNICEF, it shows that floods, storms, droughts, and fires fueled by global warming have displaced over 43 million children between 2016 and 2021. And the agency deplores the lack of attention paid to these particularly vulnerable victims. Co-author of the UNICEF report, Laura Healy, says based on the available data, this figure is just the tip of the iceberg. Healy says the reality is with the impacts of climate change, or better tracking of displacement when it comes to slow onset events. The number of children who are uprooted from their homes is going to be much greater.
And we found, so looking at the past displacements, that there were 43.1 million internal displacements of children due to weather-related events over that 6-year period, which is the equivalent to about 20,000 child displacements every day. 95% of those displacements were due to floods and storms.
Healy describes what possible outcomes await children displaced by these climate disasters.
Children might become separated from their parents, from their caregivers. They might have suffered both physical and emotional stress, watching their homes be destroyed, their communities, and maybe the loss of family members. Often their education is disrupted, their access to healthcare is disrupted, so they're at higher risk of malnutrition, disease, missing out on important immunizations.
Healy implores countries to protect children at risk of displacement and the impacts of climate change. She asks to ensure that the services children need for education, child protection, healthcare, social protection are shock resilient, shock responsive when it comes to the impacts of climate change. This, she says, so these services are prepared with financing and partnership in place to continue running after a disaster strikes. Bernadette Regini for Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Johannesburg, South Africa has been hit by extreme water supply shortages. Local reports say the government is having a hard time to address the acute water crisis. RT correspondent Noluvuyo Kunge tells us more.
As a water-scarce country, there are limits to which we can build additional dams and other infrastructure in order to capture surface water and to supply it to growing cities. And the technical options that are available to do that become increasingly expensive because of the our limited ability to capture additional water. We're currently accelerating a range of projects to make more raw water available. For example, the Lesotho Highlands project is currently under construction. It's a massive project which is going to bring a lot more water to the Vaal River system to enable the Gauteng municipalities to have more water, to enable Rand Water to treat more water.
Police arrested 5 protesters after disrupting a Les Miserables performance in London's Sondheim Theatre. Metropolitan Police identified the group as Just Stop Oil, which stormed the stage carrying banners amid the performance of the song Do You Hear the People Sing. According to a post on X, the group of 4 protesters locked themselves to the stage ahead of their apprehension. Meanwhile, theater management said the show was stopped and the theater was evacuated following the protest. The tickets from the performance were also refunded.
The UK government is facing calls to crack down on the backyard breeders of XL bully dogs and even to cull the breed following a string of horrifying attacks. From the United Kingdom, here's Catherine Messina for the details.
Following a string of horrifying attacks, the UK government faces calls to crack down on the backyard breeders of XL bully dogs and even to cull the breed. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has pledged to ban the dogs, but stopped short of saying they should be euthanized. The dogs, which have huge, powerful jaws and can weigh over 60 kilograms, have risen in popularity since the COVID-19 lockdowns, which saw dog ownership rise. This is Catherine Messina from London, United Kingdom for Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
In a joint effort to tackle drug smuggling and migrant flows, senior U.S. and Mexican officials gather for high-level talks. This amid signs of diplomatic friction over a U.S. plan to extend a controversial border wall. Philip Toledo has more.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken was accompanied by a delegation including Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas and Attorney General Merrick Garland. Blinken said the talks would address urgent threats facing the two countries.
We have to confront the synthetic drug epidemic as a public health crisis. That's what it is. And we'll discuss how we can continue to enhance border and port security while facilitating legitimate travel and trade between us.
Meanwhile, Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador criticizes the border wall extension plan announced by Washington. López Obrador says it does not solve the problem that the two countries must address the causes of migration. He says disrupting the violent cartels manufacturing and trafficking fentanyl will be at the top of that list. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says the U.S. saw a record of around 110,000 drug overdose deaths between March 2022 and March 2023. Fentanyl accounted for some 2/3 of them. Philip Toledo for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected on.
The Swedish Academy awarded Norwegian playwright Jon Fosse the 2023 Nobel Prize in Literature. The Academy said that Fosse was honored for his innovative plays and prose, which give voice to the unsayable. Born in 1959 in Norway's Haugesund, Fosse had produced works spanning a variety of genres, including plays, novels, poetry collections, essays, children's books, and translations. Often compared to Samuel Beckett, Fosse's work is minimalistic, which relies on simple language that delivers its message through rhythm, melody, and silence. Fosse had featured widely in Nobel speculations for several years, where his major works include Boathouse and Melancholy 1 and 2. Fosse will receive the Nobel Prize in Stockholm on December 10, which comes with a medal and a prize sum of 11 million Swedish kronor, or about $1 million.
Narges Mohammadi, an Iranian women's rights advocate serving 12 years in jail, has been awarded the 2023 Nobel Peace Prize.
I think what is absolutely clear is that the women of Iran have been a source of inspiration for the world. We've seen their courage and determination in the face of reprisals, intimidation, violence, and detention. This courage, this determination has been remarkable. They've been harassed for what they do or don't wear. There are increasingly stringent legal, social, and economic measures against them. So we would absolutely say that this really is something that really highlights the courage and determination of the women of Iran and how they are an inspiration to the world.
The award-making committee urged Iran to release Mohammadi, one of the nation's leading activists who has campaigned for both women's rights and the abolition of the death penalty. Hailing Mohammadi as a freedom fighter, the head of the Norwegian Nobel Committee started her speech by saying in Farsi, and I quote, "Woman, life, and freedom," a famous slogan of the protest against the Iranian government. The award also recognized the hundreds of thousands of people who have demonstrated against Iranian discrimination and oppression of women. She is the deputy head of the Defenders of Human Rights Center, a prominent non-government organization led by Shirin Ebadi, who was the Nobel Peace Prize laureate for 2003.
On Thursday, the world's largest climate fund was seeking fresh cash at a donor conference in Germany. The Green Climate Fund, or GCF, was set up as part of the landmark 2015 Paris Agreement to funnel grants and loans to developing countries for mitigation projects in a boiling world. The fund plays a part in the promise by rich countries to supply $100 billion of climate finance to poorer nations every year, which has already missed an initial 2020 deadline. The issue will play a major role in crunched UN talks, COP28, beginning in Dubai on November 30. The GCF has laid out a 50 by 30 vision to manage $50 billion by 2030, almost triple its current capital of $17 billion. This year, Britain and Germany pledged billions of dollars to the GCF, while France followed suit last month with a commitment of 1.61 billion euros, or around $1.7 billion. A huge gap remains to be plugged, however, with the United States yet to announce how much it will offer, where Donald Trump gave nothing 5 years later since Barack Obama's $3 billion pledge in 2014. Coming right up, the developers of the Unity game engine are angering the very developers they vowed to support. More medals have been added to the Philippines' ASEAN medal tally. And the Busan International Film Festival is open to showcase some of Asia's best amateurs. Catch more news in business, tech, sports, and entertainment when we return.
Ngayong Sabado sa Oh No, It's BO. Babaeng puro reklamo. Marami ang naaaburido.
Magkano pa yung kwek-kwek? Ba't ganito yung lasa? Bakit? Iba po yung panlasa ko eh. Hindi lang po nakatikim ng ganyan. Ikaw lang din nagsabi ng ganyan.
May makabullseye kaya sa darts kung ang target ay tao imbis na dartboard?
Ito, oh. 1, 2, 3. Ano lang? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Oh.
Mapapakembot naman ang marami sa Shake Your Booty Prank Challenge ni Papa P.
Kaya mo yan! Kaya mo yan! Go! Go! Kaya mo yan!
Prank Tito na mala-LC ang nakasimentong braso. Marami ang mapeperwisyo.
Dediretso po ako doon. Kakaliwa po ako pag ganun.
Jason Brothers, hindi nakaligtas sa hand in the back prank. Lahat ng yan, ating abangan this Saturday, 8 p.m. sa Oh No, It's BO. Biro only sa Net 25.
Bangladesh receives the first uranium delivery for its Russia-backed nuclear plant. This is a project aimed at bolstering its overstretched energy grid, but complicated by sanctions on Moscow. Marjorie Quintos has more details.
Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has courted Russian ties with renewed vigor after Western criticism over her government's rights record. Moscow is bankrolling the $12.65 billion plant with a loan of 90% of its cost. This, with hopes it will alleviate the chronic blackouts plaguing the South Asian nation. During a video conference with Hasina to mark the handover, Russian President Vladimir Putin says Bangladesh is their long-term friend and partner. Putin also pledges assistance for uranium supply, maintenance, and management of spent fuel. Hasina describes the milestone in her country's nuclear ambitions as a day of pride and joy for the people of Bangladesh. She thanks Putin for his guidance and assistance. Marjorie Quintos for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Sam Bankman-Fried, the former CEO of FTX, has pleaded good faith in the fraud case trial against him. Good faith in contract law is a broad term that encompasses honest dealing or faithful performance of duties. Good faith also means absence of fraudulent intent. Bankman-Fried's lawyer argues Sam did not defraud anyone and there was no theft made. The defense also insists FTX was a startup and Bankman-Fried had to make hundreds of decisions a day. As a result, Bankman-Fried's lawyer argues some things got overlooked. But for the prosecution, the former crypto CEO committed massive fraud by stealing money from the accounts of customers of his FTX exchange platform and using them for his own account. The prosecutor said Bankman-Fried's girlfriend will testify next week how she and the defendant stole money from FTX customers. Unity has made amendments to its controversial runtime fee policy. JD Mahinay for the details.
Unity Technologies has recently released its new runtime fee early September, adding charges to its 2005 cross-platform game engine. This brought fear, anger, and confusion to the game developing community. During Unity's announcement, it released a matrix of its new payment scheme. Under the matrix, Unity has levied its users' revenue threshold for the next 12 months and their game install counts. For its Unity Personal and Unity Plus, patrons will be charged if their game projects will reach 200,000 game installs and the same number of dollars worth in revenue. Many game developers were enraged by the decision made by Unity, as the announcement was so sudden, especially to those who handle indie projects. The new payment scheme will take effect on January 1st, 2024, after Unity's runtime policy update for that year. But how will game developers and companies be affected by this change? For instance, cult classic platformer game Cuphead, published and developed by MDHR, sold its game for $16 per copy. Between 2018 and 2019, MDHR sold about 2 million copies of the game. Doing the math, MDHR achieved $32 million in gross revenue between those years. Therefore, the team owes Unity $64,000. But this is for AAA games. But how about small enterprise groups who are struggling to meet their budget? After days of online protests by some game developing groups, Unity has finally come to its senses to review its policy. Unity Create President Mark Whitten wrote an apology to its patrons via an open letter published online. Included in this letter was a new coverage of Unity's updated runtime fee policy. Under the revised terms, any game developed with the current version of the engine is not covered by the new paying scheme. Unity has also doubled the revenue limit of its personal plan, from $100,000 up to $200,000, while removing its Made with Unity splash screen. Unity clarified that the runtime fee policy will only apply at the start of the next long-term support version of the Unity engine, shipping next year and beyond. Meanwhile, for those creators on Unity Pro and Unity Enterprise, Unity is also making changes based on their feedback. Unity has offered a hefty choice for games subjected to the runtime fee. Involved creators are now faced with a choice of either paying Unity with a 2.5% revenue share or the calculated amount based on new monthly engagements. Overall, the change only addressed issues people had with the new terms. Unity really almost hit a wall for its wager to capitalize on its products. This, however, makes 2024 a harder path to venture for game projects to finish successfully. JD Mahina reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Another silver and gold have been added to the Philippines' medal tally in the Asian Games. Filipino boxer Eun-bin Marshall settled for the silver medal in the Asian Games. Marshall fell to China's Erbieke Tuheta unanimous decision in the finals of the men's 80-kilogram division. All 5 judges scored 29-28 in favor of Tuheta in the 3-round bout. Following the minor setback, Marshall now turns his attention to the 2024 Paris Olympics, where he is currently the Philippines' lone boxing representative after qualifying through his Asian Games semifinal win. Meanwhile, Annie Ramirez captured the Philippines' 3rd gold medal and 2nd in jiu-jitsu. This after Ramirez scored a 2-0 victory over Kazakhstan's Galina Duvanova in the final of the women's under 57-kilogram division, and completing her unbeaten run after winning her first 3 bouts. With the feat, the Philippines now has its third gold medal of the Games, following pole vaulter EJ Obiena and Ramirez's jiu-jitsu teammate Maggie Ochoa. This just in, Gilas Filipinas has completed their basketball redemption by capturing gold in the Asian Games. This after they defeated Jordan in the men's basketball final 70-60. Justin Brownlee led the team anew with a double-double of 20 points and 10 rebounds. Ange Kwame added with his own double-double as well with 14 points and 11 rebounds, while Chris Newsome added 13 markers. With the feat, Gilas gave the Philippines its fourth gold medal in the Asian Games. This was also the first gold medal for the country since 1962, when Kaloy Loizaga led the Philippines to the last of what were 4 straight Asian Games basketball golds.
The 28th Busan International Film Festival, or BIFF, opens on October 4 in Busan, South Korea, with actress Park Eun-bin hosting the opening ceremony. Bernadette Manuel has the scoop.
The 28th Busan dazzled with Korean and foreign stars. The BIFF kicked off on October 4, and the opening ceremony was hosted by Park Eun-bin, best known for the hit Netflix drama Extraordinary Attorney Woo. The official opening night of the international film event was held in the outdoor theater of the Busan Cinema Center. Present was Hong Kong legend Chow Yun-fat, who was honored with the Asian Filmmaker of the Year award for his contributions to the Asian film industry. Asia's largest international film event runs through October 14 and features 209 films from 69 countries, including 80 world premieres. The opening film was Jung Kun-jae's drama Because I Hate Korea. Highlights of this year's Busan are the 2 main competition sections, the New Currents and GSOC, where the Philippines' very own Brillante Mendoza is competing with his film Moro, starring Piolo Pascual and Baron Geisler. The BIFF also features special programs on the booming Indonesian film industry and Korean directors working in Hollywood. Bernadette Manuel for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Gareth Edwards' sci-fi blockbuster is more Elysium than it is District 9, signaling a significant update to the usual sci-fi OS. Stephanie Mayo has the scoop.
The Creator has polarizing reviews from critics, but it's still worth a look if you are into epic science fiction action thrillers. The movie delves into artificial intelligence and tells a story about a war in the future between man and AI. From writer-director Gareth Edwards, best known for helming Rogue One and Godzilla, The Creator stars John David Washington as Joshua, an ex-Special Forces agent grieving the disappearance of his wife, played by Gemma Chan. Joshua is recruited to hunt down and kill the Creator, who's responsible for creating an advanced AI which has developed a powerful weapon that could end the war. The catch, it could end mankind as well. The Creator boasts technical achievement, making it a truly visual spectacle with impressive action set pieces. Its themes and concept may be thought-provoking to some, but heavy-handed to others. Some critics say it's a missed potential, while others say it is messy but still entertaining. But one thing's for sure, it is best seen on the big screen. Stephanie Mayo for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
See that? That's my Friday smile.
Yeah, I love it.
And to end the week, here's a quote from American activist and rapper Daniel Anthony Ferris. I just start embracing change. It's safe to say that growth is an uncomfortable process and pain is a necessary investment for progress.
As someone who values schedule and routine, I completely agree. I'm so scared of change, but I like the mention of pain because with change does come pain, with pain does come growth.
And I think that success really requires hard work.
I definitely agree with that. And that's a wrap for tonight's news. Happy weekend. Catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I am Gianna Llanes.
I am Nina Richielago Flores. Happy weekend. This is Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point. Thank you for choosing Mata ng Agila International as your trusted news source, keeping you connected to the world and on point with stories from around the globe. Follow, like, and subscribe to @Net25 TV.